So what are we talking about today, Jennifer Lacey?
Well, we're talking about, we've been talking about feedback and kind of different perspectives. And then each show, I think the last two have been on feedback, and then we've kind of built on it based on some conversations we've had. And so today is about effective communication and how that ties to feedback. So we label things feedback, we talk about communication, and yet sometimes I think the waters get a little muddy. And so I think today we're going to try to dig into some of that. Is that right?
100%. I mean, for me, I'm just going to say it. We do a horrible job by calling every communication we have feedback.
Yes.
Right. That's the main point. That's why we've been hammering on this for 3 separate conversations, is because we, like the first one we talked about was input, which is the appropriate communication we want when we're brainstorming and kind of planning and developing forward-thinking actions. We want input. I don't want feedback. I want your input. The last conversation was about performance. Like, how do we get people to correct their performance and improve their performance while you're like in the doing of the thing, which is not feedback.
Right.
At least in Jesse land, right? That is a performance conversation about the gap in the person's performance and maybe even the great things that they're doing in their performance. It's super clear. One of the main points was have an anchor point, right? Like, this is Jennifer, you have not been meeting the expectation.
Yes.
What resources do you need? Here's what it looks like. Here's what it needs to look like. Are you committed to making the improvement? That's an anchoring conversation. That's very different than I have some feedback for you. Right? And that's not to say that feedback is a bad thing. What I'm suggesting is getting precise on what the hell we're talking about and the intent of the conversation.
Yes.
Is that clear?
I think I want to add to, I think what you and I talked about and what you just said, we honed in on, is it about compliance or is it about growth and about introspection? Because depending on what comes out of our mouth and how somebody receives it, it is about compliance, get your stuff done, or is it about introspection and reflection on how do I learn and grow? Those are 2 different pieces of communication.
And I think that's, we muddy it. And so folks out there in the omniverse, give us your thoughts. And so if especially lurkers, Mangal, I think is the first time we've seen you here. I know Christina, you got your blue heart. So first time here. This is totally interactive. Like, this conversation is only going to be awesome because of the value and insight that you share in the comments. So one question while we're up here jamming our jaws is, what is the purpose of feedback? Like, we want to know, because your thoughts are going to help other people kind of get clarity around the thing, maybe muddy it up a little bit more. I don't know. But yeah, so we did touch on this thing that we twist it up, right? We get it mixed up, and I just want to add clarity. So before we jump into that, James says he likes the words feedback and communication way better than vulnerability.
He's deflecting.
I love it.
He's deflecting.
And then look, Sarah's like, okay, which one helps you grow faster? Yeah, girl, get him. So let them know, what do you think the purpose of feedback is? You and I, Jen, we were talking before we went live, is I am a proponent of leveraging feedback for introspection and growth. Right? And now what comes with that is, when I give you feedback, you have the option to apply it or not. I don't get to be pissy if you don't take my feedback.
Truth.
Is that fair?
No, it is. Yes.
Right. And so now, if I need you to change your behavior and I call it feedback and you don't change your behavior, is that a problem?
It's a problem if the expectation is, I told you to do something and you didn't do it, and now I get to discipline you for it.
Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, because I think it's in the delivery, and for those of us, there's people, there's everyone in here has either obviously been in the receiving end of that, and we have a lot of high performing people that are out there killing it and are probably in a position of delivering that. And so, digging into kind of what we honed in on is when you are delivering feedback, is it specific to they can now take that and they can now go and reflect on some things, really kind of process some things, and then maybe make a different choice or do something different that's going to help them continue to evolve. That next step is not, Jesse, this is the policy and you didn't follow it, and because of that we have water leaks. So now I need you to make sure that you go do this next time, because if not, it's going to cost us money. That's not feedback.
Right. That's a corrective conversation. This must change. The consequences of not adjusting the behavior are job, security, promotion, like all of these things. It's not feedback, man. And I think my assumption is that people call it feedback to soften the conversation. And we tell ourselves that we're softening it for the person.
No, we don't like having uncomfortable conversations. So we're a little bit of passive aggressive. We're a little bit of, if we say it, then we can document it. Then when it doesn't happen, we can go, oh, but we had that conversation. And remember when I talked about this? Come on now.
Jared said no.
No sandwiches. Remember you talk about the sandwiches. Let's be super nice and tell them how awesome they are. And then let's come in and go, but this sucks. But we know that you're making a lot of effort and we appreciate it. That sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Feedback sandwich. Yes, Jared.
The poo-poo sandwich. Right now, I don't want to, I want to give that technique some credit.
Okay, right? Go ahead.
Because it's taught widely. They don't call it I think they call it the feedback sandwich. I call it the poo-poo sandwich. And Jared, that's what Jared's talking about, because it's nice bread, right? Oh, Jen, you have great personality.
Thanks.
You suck at this. And that's a beautiful blouse. That's bullshit. I mean, like, oops. Like,
all I'm gonna hear is, okay, I'm doing okay, and I'm gonna be good.
It muddies it
2
up.
out of 3. Come on now, that's like a good percentage, right?
Shoot, that's Hall of Fame stats right there, girl. You're batting 600. And so that's the problem. Like, I think maybe if you're super uncomfortable and have never done it before, like especially like if you're a new manager and all of a sudden you're leading people, holy hell. Performance conversations are the hardest freaking thing in the world. And so maybe if you're using it as a first step to build the courage and the practice of delivering performance observations, okay. But if you're in year 2 and you're still doing it, like, bro, take the freaking training wheels off and be clear about what the hell the conversation is. Because I'm like you, Jen. I hear all like, yeah, you're right. I agree, I'm amazing. And that other thing's not that big a deal because there were 2 more positives.
Right.
Like, duh, instead of just having the straight up conversation. Thank you for adding that, Jared. Look, we got LinkedIn user coming in from Illinois. Welcome. Oh man, and we got Christina. Shoot, Blue Heart.
Already jumping in.
She says, in her opinion, feedback should be yes. Feedback should be requested or at least presented from a place of support, not criticism. And if it's negative, balance it with positive. We are all human and hurt feelings slow progress. Girl, that we're going to dive into that one.
Yes.
So Jen, I want to ask you, right out of the gate, she says feedback should be requested. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we talk a lot. So it is, I think, human nature. We're going to start with that. Human nature is that when we, in a certain group of people that like perform and look for things to get better and continuous improvement in a world I think that human nature is we see something wrong or we see something that could be better. And in our minds, it's like if we tell somebody, hey, try this or do this, we're helping them. That's just like it's where we feel like that we're making them better. And so sometimes I don't think it comes from a bad place. I just think we see something and we're like, oh, well, we have experience with that, or we know that's not going to work, or we think that maybe they could be better if they did this. And I don't think we stop before words come out of our mouth and go, did they ask? Christina, great point. Did they ask? And are they in a position to receive it? And again, all of my examples come from mostly my kids, and in that I am always in a place of, I screwed that up. I don't want them to screw it up. I had experience with that, and I know that's not going to work. I know there's a better way. Like that's things that we all do that as parents. But is that the best way to approach something when our kids are doing, trying something or experimenting with something, or, struggling with something?
Yep.
And going, here's the fix. Here's the better way. Here, you should do this.
Yep.
We do it. We all do it. We do it at work and we do it at home. But what did they ask? What did they learn? How are they growing? And I think she hit all of those things. And her point of, is it coming from a place of criticism? like you're doing it wrong. That is not, that's not feedback when it's you're doing it wrong. That is an opinion. That is not providing feedback for growth and opportunity.
Yes.
And when they didn't even ask, you have an example. Examples we always do if we're in the middle of something with people. Well, have you tried this? Did you do this? What about this? And that's not the point of the conversation. And two, we didn't ask.
Yes.
But we feel like if we don't give that, then like we're not contributing or we're not helping that person. And so like we just opened up like Pandora's box, I feel, because there's so many places that, yes, you can provide feedback that will help and aid and allow for introspection. But before anything comes out of your mouth, like stop and go, did they ask? Because Jesse, you are really good on like, hey, I got some thoughts. Do you want to hear them?
Yes.
Because 99.9% of the time I'm like, hit me with them. And then there's times where I'm like, Jesse, I'm not in a place right now.
Yep.
That, like I'm not in a place to receive it and it's not going to help me.
Yep.
And like by asking that question, you are, one, they give you permission, but two, like, I don't want to waste my time either of giving you my thoughts, Jesse, on things that I think could help you if you're not even in a place where like you're going to receive them.
Yes.
Okay.
So, there's a lot. I know. Be stuck here for a minute.
Yes.
So your feedback on my grammar and punctuation and typos.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like, you're wasting your energy.
Right.
Right. Like, oh, sounds great.
Yep.
Whatever. I'm not going to change anything about it. It's what it is. I'm probably going to lose clients because my grammar sucks and it will forever. And I'm okay with that.
But we had to like, it had to be mute. Like you had to meet me. I had to meet you when we were dealing with that, when you and I were dealing with that specifically for the book.
Yep.
We were doing, like, I could be like, Jesse, here's a list of all the things. And I could have listed, I could have done it all. And then you would have been like, okay, great. And like, you wouldn't have looked at one of them. And I could have been like, I don't care. I'm just going to let Jesse push the button. I would not have been okay with that.
Right.
And so it's like, we had to like figure out how can we meet together and it not be either of us stressed so much that we're just like, screw it. Let's just not do it.
Yes. 100%. So the thing that Christina, that really has my attention is the requesting part, the action, the invitation for feedback.
Yes.
And what you kind of described, and you've shared this story before on the show, where one of the girls brings you their artwork, their thing that they drew, right? And they're showing off, like, look what I did. And your first response was, well, what if you did this?
Oh.
You remember that one, Jen?
I still like. There's still moments where it's like, and the art is in the art in itself. Like when you start with the word art, like
Oh God, yep.
at that point, your opinion doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I'm an artist. I draw, I write, I do things. So like my brain is already in that space, and like I can see, oh, this could be this could be. Who cares? Like, yes, 100%. It's like that part of it.
Yes.
It's hard to shut down, and you've just got to find a way to just not speak.
Or say awesome, right? Like just shut your mouth.
Yes, because it's not about yes, that part.
Right?
Request for feedback. They didn't ask for request for feedback.
They did not request the feedback. You were not invited in.
No.
So I'm gonna give a shout out. We got some folks coming in. Mr. Byron Smith
Good
coming in from
morning.
the DF Dub. Mr. Edward Gale. We got the brothers on today coming in from North California.
We have
What's
some blue
up,
hearts
Edward?
too, so we may want to jump on those as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
we got a party. We got tons of comments in. Keep them coming, y'all. And
Yes.
actually, I forgot to say this at the top. There's some funkiness on LinkedIn where if you're now we're getting closer to identifying the problem. If you're on your iPhone or your laptop, or if you have what's the other phone? What kind of phone you got, Jen?
Android.
Android. For some reason, we're not sure exactly which ones, but depending on where you're coming in from and sharing your comments, they won't make it through the StreamYard feed. And there's nothing I can do about it, except for once the live closes and after the after party, I'm going to go back and show you some love and demonstrate appreciation for you sharing your comments. I just want to be clear. We're not ignoring you. It's a systems thing that is just not feeding all the way through. We don't know exactly which one it is. Otherwise, we would say, hey, everybody log in from your iPhone or your Android phone or whatever, but we don't know. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Or even like LinkedIn and YouTube. Like there's something weird that.
So that's the other thing. YouTube,
yeah.
If you're watching through YouTube and you comment, it comes through all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, not saying go to YouTube, but if you're really passionate about getting your stuff up on the screen, that may be a good option.
Yes.
So back to this idea about requesting, right? Like the venue, I'm going to frame it as the venue for feedback.
Yes.
What are the conditions that are ideal for feedback? And Jared says, no constructive criticism, pointed and specific with direction and advice for improvement. Here's the important part. Delivering feedback is often harder for the deliverer than the receiver. Most people want feedback, but it has to come with advice and direction. So I'm going to anchor on the deliverer, like why is it difficult? And I'm going to keep picking on you about your art, your critique, your professional art critic career. When they bring the thing and say, look what I did. And you say, well, what if, and you could have, and that feedback, we're going to be loose and call it feedback. But those words that come out of your mouth are not about the creator.
Well, they're about
you.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that like, why do we do that?
But and again, like it's their art. At no point am I going to take ownership of it. And at no point am I going to go and submit it to be in a gallery. Like it's not even my art. They're coming to show. They're coming to be proud of something. They're coming to be able to, body of work. And there I am going, what about? Like that is 100% about me and what I see and what I think and what it could be.
Yeah. Yes. And so I want to slap people in the face. If your natural instinct is to like give your opinion, or I like to use the word complaint, because all it is a complaint, right? I'm complaining about what you brought to me. If you think of it that way, it stings a little more.
It does.
It lands a little clearer. I didn't ask for your complaint. And more importantly, am I going to was that the point? So in the mother-daughter situation, that's probably not the best outcome, right? To sever the connection. squash creativity and all those other things. But even out here in the wild with adults, like I get often I'll get a text or an email or something about one of the episodes or something I posted about something that they didn't like. I'm like, okay, like, I hope you feel better because I'm not changing it. And so I didn't ask for the feedback, right? And more importantly, I think here's another level that we need to consider is your feedback in the direction that I want to grow to? Or is it in the direction that would make you happier? Because that may not be the same thing. Back to what Jared said, right? The feedback is hard for the deliverer because how often is it about us and not the person we're attempting to serve?
100%, to the point of we see where they could be, where they want, and you have a great example of this, of someone that you saw potentially as could be in a leadership position. And you were like, you were directing them, and they were finally a kind of a hard conversation on, Jesse, it's not what I want.
Yes.
Like, yeah, yes. And it was because it was about you.
Yep. Oh, we got some good. Yeah, absolutely. So that was Fernando, right?
Yes.
Like the guy had charisma, he had influence, he had experience, like he had the stuff that I wanted in foreman. Mm-hmm. And so I was like coaching him to be a foreman. I never asked him if he wanted to be a foreman. And then finally one day he's like, bro, like, I don't want to do that shit. Like, I'm not going to do it. Which was profound. And then his reason why was the most important thing, which takes us back to asking. If I would have asked, mm-hmm. Are you interested in being a foreman? Are you interested in growing your career, taking the next step? That asking is the core thing here, being clear. And so, Jen, you and I have had these conversations, and it's something when I'm on my A game, when somebody asks me for feedback and I got my stuff in a pile, my head's clear, I won't just give them my opinion. I will ask, what were you trying to achieve? What was the targeted outcome? What were you working towards? Because then I can frame my feedback in that will help them on their mission. What do you think about that, Jen?
Yes, because even when someone says they want feedback, and this goes into a little bit of our emotional bungee jumper stuff, when people are struggling with something, just say, I need your help. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes they're not even sure if they need your help or they need to get clear. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, like you said, if we start with questions, it may only stay with questions. There may not be anything we can contribute other than helping them get clarity.
Yes. 100%.
I mean, that it's okay to go, I didn't give them the answer. I didn't help them jump to the next, whatever the thing is they need to do, because maybe I didn't know or I wasn't sure. But we all can be in a place of curiosity, and we all can help them be in a place of clarity.
100%. Is it about me or the person in front of me? That's the first question, right? So Yesenia shares some gangster observations. Okay. She's been practicing and giving feedback when it's asked, and not just to give it, or I ask if they want it, which again, may I offer an observation? I do that all the time, like, because I'm not going to waste my time. With her daughter, first year of college, sends her work and asks if she would like to critique. Her daughter says, like, thanks, Mom, instead of just saying what you think and make it better, because she doesn't always want to hear the criticism. So sometimes it's just an engagement, right? It's just a conversation, keeping you engaged with what the person's doing in their life. Daryl says, yes, pause and ask, is this about me or them? Super valuable reflection.
And that in itself sometimes is hard if you're early in this journey. Like in your mind, you're like, no, but I'm helping them. No, but I'm like it, to be able to stop and go, okay, what I'm saying, is it about them? Is it about helping them? Is it about their journey? Or is it about me being on this journey with them, me getting them where I think they need to be? Like those are very introspective reflection moments that helps us know that we've got some growth to do too.
Absolutely. So for me, the core question is, how can I better serve the person in front of me. Not how can I flex my skills and my knowledge? How can I better serve the person in front of me? And so I need to understand, what are they working towards? What are they trying to achieve so that I can serve them in that path? Mr. Robert White brings a good point. He says, I think in all relationships, you have to earn the right to be heard if you want someone to value what you say. What do you think about
that? Well, and keep that up there, because I want to hit on that. Is sometimes because we haven't earned it doesn't mean we can't still listen. Because I think that people come to us and they're struggling, and emotions are there. Sometimes anxiety. There's a lot of things that, because of we work in an industry, there are a lot of things going on, and a lot of people that have a lot of, just outside the gate things, and also things they bring to work. And we may not have earned it yet. We may not be in a place to go, here's what I think, or here's what you should do, or here's my thoughts, or, whatever, because they're coming to me. And so having to think about, have I earned a place in their world to where I can give them something very vulnerable, very real, and are they gonna receive it? Like, to be able to know you're in that place or not, or I haven't built that yet, doesn't mean you can't hear and listen and ask questions, and some resource, whatever that is. Like, I think that's so important, because we feel, maybe because of our credentials or our experience or even our body of work, that I have the skills, I have the knowledge, I have the intelligence, I have the competence to be able to guide them and to be able to help them. Like, we could have that inside of us, but if we haven't earned it from that specific person, we're not in a place to give them direction sometimes.
Yes.
I'm
gonna double down on that.
Do it.
In that, listening to the person, asking interested questions of the person, and receiving them fully is the way you earn the spot.
Yes. 100%.
Right? Like,
yes.
If you just do that. I mean, let's think back to the first phone call you and I had, Jen. Was I giving you a lot of advice and feedback?
No, you were asking a lot of questions. Let's give a little context. Jesse and I had crossed paths on LinkedIn, some other events and some organizations, but not really had one-on-one conversations. And the first phone call where it was he and I having a one-on-one conversation, it went almost 3 hours, which is a little bit crazy. But it was, again, how did it go that long? It was one, like, you did not go, here's what I've seen, here's what you should do, here's my thoughts. It was a lot of questions. And then the questions opened up more conversations. And then those conversations spurred other topics and other things. And what about this? And what about this? But it was absolutely you listening a lot more than talking.
And did I earn some of your trust?
I think based on the vulnerability of the conversation, yes.
100%. And so, Miss Yesenia, and this is an important point, back to the asking, right? But sometimes even if they don't ask for the feedback, they actually need it.
Oh, okay. So then how do you navigate that, Jesse?
Ask them. Ask for permission. May I offer an observation?
Yes.
Can I share what I see? May I get clear on what I'm thinking you're communicating?
Jesse, you know why that's so hard for people to not ask before they give it? Because most people, when we're in a conversation, if we are not completely connected to the person in front of us, we already have the next 3 questions ready. We already have the advice ready. We already know what they should do, probably with the results of that, and then what they need to do next. That's how our brains work. And because that is where we're functioning, and that's where we come from when we have that face-to-face with somebody, we cannot just dismiss that and ignore it and let it just be there and actually hear the person in front of us and see the person in front of us. We struggle with that because in our minds, we are solution focused. We are solution oriented. We want to solve problems. And because of that, we cannot let go of some of that and be able to just be in the place with that person.
Yes. It's getting permission. And here's the thing is they get to say no.
Yes. And you have to walk away with all that stuff in your head.
Right? Like, and I've done this with, you already know this, Jen, like people that I deeply care about. It's not going to be fluffy observations, right?
Yes.
It's going to be real.
It's going to be hard. Yes.
And so I've done, and I only do it when it's like, I got to let them know because nobody else is going to let them know.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call and say, hey, how you doing? Whatever. Man, I got an observation to share. Can I share about XYZ? Am I okay to share that with you? Are you even interested? And most of the people that know me, they're like, oh, hold on. Let me take a seat. Right. But they get to say no. And so I just want to like hammer that home for folks. Like, yes, some people need to know they have a booger on their face. They may not like it, but if you want to maintain the connection and a better chance that your observation is going to land, get permission.
Yes.
Get permission first, because then it's an honorable interaction, not a judgmental critiquing, I am greater than thou type interaction. I'm here to serve you interaction. That's the thing.
And you're getting the earned trust and the respect, even if it's 4 times that they come to you and you go, can I share an observation? No. Okay. I'm not, that's fine. Every time. Yep. You're earning trust because you're not still going, well, let me tell you anyway.
Yep.
Well, okay. But like, if you just say, okay, you're earning trust. There's a respect that's being cultivated there.
Yep. Now, Heather Ormondi asked, good morning, Heather. How you doing, sister? What about the spirit of continuous improvement?
Okay, I'm gonna pose this to you, and then I'll add. So tell me the difference between continuous improvement and compliance.
I like that. So when I think about this question and the spirit of continuous improvement as it relates to feedback, I think about the 8 wastes, right? One of the 8 wastes is overproduction. And so if I'm giving people feedback that they're not seeking, that they didn't request, and that is not in alignment with the direction that they're headed, I am practicing overproduction.
Yep.
Which means the energy and thought that I just expended into delivering my wisdom is a defect, right? Like I am not practicing continuous improvement. I am practicing the 8 wastes. So we have to gain agreement on the problem. Like when I'm helping people, do my fancy stuff, like actually earning money besides my fans only page, we got to have agreement on the problem or the opportunity or the deviation, like whatever. We got to be aligned on what that is. And once we're all clear about what the target is, what are we working towards? What are we trying to solve? And my feedback is in alignment with that, then it's working in this continuous improvement idea. But if it's just, I see waste and inefficiency and flow problems and communication problems and culture problems, all the problems, and I'm giving feedback on all of them, it's overproduction.
You're feeding the problem.
I am feeding the problem, right? And so it really is a matter of discipline to say, yes, I have all these observations, but if there isn't agreement on the problem, it's waste. And so getting clear about what that's how I would frame it, Heather. Hopefully that helps. Now, in terms of compliance, we're not talking about a continuous improvement thing anymore. We're talking about terms of employment, like do this or else. That's not a continuous improvement thing. I mean, it could be framed as a continuous improvement in terms of having processes and measures to maintain or weed out deviation from the standard. Sure. But it's not feedback. It is a performance gap that needs immediate action, which is what? compliance.
Yes. Okay. So yes. Oh, and I want to add, so I saw Josh in the comments and so I want to give an example of like compliance and continuous improvement and like how much continuous improvement is about behaviors. So just like think about anchor continuous improvement on behaviors. And so Josh, on one of his jobs, again, we know compliance when it comes to safety in our industry, super important, tying off, harnessing, like the things that we know save lives. And that is like, if you're not doing that, you could end up dead. Like
Yes.
those are things that we have to be hard on. It's not a, let me give you some feedback on how this, that is like a non-negotiable. Okay. So there's that. And you have to be, there's no, gray area when it comes to that. And so that's compliance. Like you've got to make sure you're doing these things. And so how do we take that and turn it into a continuous improvement opportunity? So Josh, on a job, someone was tied off, everything they should have been, everything, compliance to the T. They fell and it saved their life. So what did he do? He took the harness and put it right outside the big room area and put a big sign and said, this saved a life.
Oh, baby.
Now,
Yeah.
take that into every person now that walks past that. Is there continuous improvement happening?
Is there a gap? Right? Like,
right.
That's the continuous improvement is, for me in my brain, is there a visible change from yesterday to today? I don't know. Like, I would say it contributes to it. It's a freaking powerful version of visual management.
Mhm.
It's telling
Right.
a freaking story, right?
Right. But then you talk about it and then you have people talking about it. And then now like it becomes something other than just we had somebody that almost fell, and like it becomes a different story.
Yes.
Yes, they check the box. That's why they didn't get hurt, versus this is amazing because they did what they were supposed to do. And how many other people that maybe have shortcuts or maybe don't realize the impact of why those things are in place are now going to make a different choice.
100%.
Yes.
Are you talking about this, Josh?
That one right there.
Man, that guy, it seemed like he aged about 15 years. The last
right.
time I saw his profile
I'm like,
page.
Josh, can you update your LinkedIn photo?
But he brings a good point. So Josh says, in a world of positive reinforcement, which I'm not entirely a fan of, the tightrope has become harder to walk. How do you package feedback to be positive and not discourage someone? This varies person. And so here's the wisdom in it, right? There's no silver bullet. There's only silver bullets for werewolves, and there ain't no werewolves. So who cares if you got them, right? This varies person to person, and there's no one way to approach it. Remember to stick with the facts. What are the facts? And leave the emotion out of it. It's not about you. It's about them and the facts. And look in the mirror and make sure that you've clearly defined expectations.
All of that.
Right. So how often have you been, Jennifer, I'm going to ask you, how often have you been frustrated, irritated, disappointed on a particular outcome? And then after you did your thing, right, your corrective measure feedback, continuous improvement feedback, then sat back and said, and I wasn't very clear about what I wanted.
I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but I'm going to say it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, and again, you bring a lot of good field examples. I'm going to bring my home examples. Is when my daughter comes to me with frustration because someone didn't treat her right. Somebody said something to her that got her mad and angry. And why did they act like that? It is my reaction not to see this child in front of me that is hurting, or this child in front of me that is frustrated. My reaction is, well, you don't know where they're coming from, and you don't know what issues they're having, and you don't know if it's really about you. Like, the heck does that have? How is that helping her in that moment?
Right.
And it's like, because I'm not stopping and looking at the one-on-one, this person versus that person. Where are they coming from? And that right there is somehow making me justify that I'm being a good parent and helping her see things bigger than they are in that moment. Come on.
girl.
Ugh.
So one of my exes, so I'm gonna ask this question to the Omniverse. We got some great comments. I want to come up to them because they're pretty big, but they're awesome. But folks, like, share a feedback flow because we've all jacked it up in some form or fashion, right?
Yes.
We totally have. So please spill the tea because we don't want to feel like we're alone up here. Anyhow, there was my ex had a significant situation with her son. She made a commitment to him to do like a super awesome thing. Then he fulfilled the expectation to earn the awesome thing. Then he went and did something silly and got in trouble.
Oh, and then we start mixing
And then we
things.
start mixing, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
so she was like conflicted, like, I should take the thing away, but he earned it already. Like,
Yes.
and because I'm not a parent, it was easy. I'm like, what decision would you make if you weren't worried about what other people would say? And she said, well, that's easy. We're going to the thing. I'm like, okay, that's probably what you should do. Yet people are going to complain and poke holes in the action and your failure to discipline. But the point, what's most important to discipline? I don't know. Like, I know for me, if I earn the freaking thing, you better give me the damn thing. You don't get to take it away because of something I did later.
Mhm.
That's a different consequence for a different situation. Now, the reason I bring that up is because, I get to observe parents in their parenting at Walmart and everywhere I go.
At my house.
At your house. And here's an interesting observation. I think we're all guilty of it. You don't have to be a parent to do it wrong, right? Is our expectations are very different depending on how many eyes are going to be seeing the behavior. What do you think, Jen?
No, I mean, yes. And from the parent, from my perspective, and again, you know me, like I perception is not a big deal, and I don't worry so much about that. Yet I still think there's this social norm conformity type thing and social media has only exacerbated it.
Yep.
And I've seen it more and more. And I'm going to bring it back to we're trained this way as children, and we continue the cycle as adults and as parents. Well, if you don't do right and you don't act right, Santa Claus isn't going to come.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do this, then this is not, then you're on the bad list. Yep. Like that's very exaggerated, but that is how we grew up. We're going to take something away if you don't do something right. And I think we have carried that into conversations, whether it's a parental conversation or not, on I can take things away from you. I have the ability to take things away from you. And we call it discipline, or we call it parenting, whatever we call it. And we are teaching our kids the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I've watched it to the point to where, one, if you threaten it and don't do it, you lose all cred, all of it. And then next time the threat is a little bit less scary.
Yep.
And then on the other side too, they realize like, okay, so I can now manipulate this.
Yes.
And then we learn to manipulate that as adults.
Yes.
So that is I mean, like I see it and I have to like stop myself and go, why am I mixing these things together and going, we promise this, but if you don't do this, like, I catch myself and my children, or even their faces. Sometimes I'm just like, they're like, what? I mean, they'll call me, Mom, what does that have to do with it? What does that have to do with this? And I'm like, yeah, but and you did this and you acted this way. And they're looking at me, but what does that have to do with this? And I'm like, oh, I don't like that question.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
I know, right? Like I'm the parent. That's why.
So we've talked a lot about like I think most of this conversation has been about being the giver of feedback.
Yes.
And we've got a lot of great stuff out there. So let's talk a little bit about when we're seeking feedback, right? Yes. And so James shares this, the uncommon communicator, asking for feedback in a specific manner has been a change maker for me.
Okay.
right? And so let me keep going. There's a couple
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Edward, oh, the brothers back to back. Edward says, when people ask me for feedback, my first question is always, what was your goal? Right, so now we're talking about, I want feedback. What can we do to make sure we get really rich and actionable feedback? Right? What was your
Yes.
goal? After the response, he asked, what do you think they heard? After that response, I moved towards helping them understand that the manner in which you frame your thoughts have a direct impact on the way they receive the information. So super, right? He's got a process, he's got a method. And then Byron, this one's, oh, can you peek over the fence, Jen? Byron says, this hits home for me because last week I had the opportunity to interview and award students for upcoming paid internships. Kind of a big deal. I interviewed several students, but was only authorized to pick a specific number of them. A lot of the students did not make the cut. Some of them asked for feedback when he let them know they weren't selected. And he said, like Jesse, the wise Jesse said, the first question that I asked him in response was, what are you trying to gain from my response?
Ooh.
Right. And so the common theme through all of that is, if you're asking for feedback, be clear about what you're looking for. What do you think, Jen?
No, 100%. And I think what this makes me remember is early on in my career, very early on, I went through kind of a little training class as I was like going out into the job, and right after college. And I learned a nugget that has helped me in a lot of conversations, very much like what Byron said and what Edward said. Is that
Yep.
right? Okay. And so it's when you go into an interview and you're trying to get a job, and the person with authority goes, tell me a little bit about yourself. I learned very early to go, absolutely, I can do that. Do you want to hear about my experience, my background, my skills? Specifically how I can fill this position. You let me know what you want to hear, and I will absolutely give that to you. That was a game changer for me because now they had to let me know what they wanted to hear. And then I can then get clarity. It goes back to what Edward said and Byron said on just like asking the question. And that's scary from someone who is not in their position of authority to put it back in their court. But if we are thinking about it from that perspective, why would we not want to give clarity? Why would we not want to? I mean, how many times like somebody, if he would have said, tell me a little bit about yourself. Oh, let me tell you, I've done this and I've done this and I've done that. Yeah, but I was looking for this. So you don't get the job, or you didn't give them the right answer. Is that on you? It is on you if you didn't clarify. And
Yes.
I think the feedback goes the same way. Is like asking the question to know what they're looking for. Someone called and said, hey, we need a panelist for a women in construction event. I could have gone, oh my gosh, like I know like 15 amazing women that are across the board in every level, every position in our industry. I could have sent all those people over. What I did, I called and said, what are you looking for? Yes. Who do you have on the panel already, and what's the gap?
Yes.
That got it super clear. I sent her one person. So, I mean, it's like feedback.
Questions.
Okay.
Questions, right?
Yes,
Questions bring clarity. So
that's okay.
Yep.
It's okay to just ask questions.
Yep. And so framing, like helping, the way I help people give me actionable feedback, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that's received feedback or done a plus delta after an engagement, and you get food is either going to be a plus or a delta. Breakfast sucked. Breakfast was good. We should have had more food. We should have had less food. We should have had, like, that kind of always going to hit the list. And then the information you get, or the intel you get from the plus delta is like weak sauce, right? Like, I wanted hot sauce and you gave me mild. Like, that ain't what I'm looking for. My assertion is, because we're not clear about what we're looking for. Like, when I'm responding to a plus delta, I'm thinking about the experience and the delivery of the information.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to be plus deltaing on.
Yeah.
That is now when I'm asking when I really want feedback after I delivered an experience, I don't want like, yeah, some feedback on the content, it's good, right? Like you please, because there's going to be typos. I'm not going to see them unless you tell me. Um, but I want to know, what did I do that grabbed your attention and kept you engaged?
Mhm.
What were your biggest takeaways from what the information or the experience that we shared? How can you apply this in your life going forward? And if none of that happened, what did I do that made me miss the mark?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get that in a plus delta. Because how the hell do they know that's what I want?
Right. Unless we frame it that way.
Right.
Yes.
Well, okay. So how would you frame it that way for a plus delta?
Okay. So for me, because I do plus deltas, in almost every training class that I am the facilitator. And a lot of people come into that class and have never done a plus delta. If they've not been in my class before, they don't know this new tool. So instead of me going, this is the pluses, this is the deltas, this is the pros, this is the cons, the way that I present the plus delta is that it is an opportunity for feedback. And then I explain what a plus would be and what a delta would be. And I give examples. And for me, that has helped people, one, to realize like, oh, she really wants some real stuff and not the weak sauce. And two, like I give them an example to go, this is examples of what I've gotten in the past and how we've made changes. This is how we have used that feedback to make this better. This is something that someone wrote that now we put that inside the training, like to let people know and see the historic, like we listened and then we use that to make something better or to identify a gap. And now we're doing this because of that gap. Like, so that has helped me get better feedback in that platform.
Yeah. So the framing of it for the plus delta is super important. I'm going to pick at it.
Do it.
Because if all we use is the language, I'm doing this to get feedback, we've proven that damn word means all kinds of shit, all kinds of stuff. I'm touching a lot today. All kinds of stuff to a lot of people. And I guess what I want to help people. Oh, look, Heather says yes. Great example for leading feedback. Like frame it, be clear about what you want. James gave
that's 2 in a row. I'm just gonna say
no more weak sauce, but we have to be clear,
yeah.
Right? Like what I heard you say was, okay, we're doing this thing. For me, the words I use is if I'm doing a plus delta, and I only do them if it's going to be like repetitive. We're going to have a particular cadence on a specific meaning. That's when I'll do a plus delta. And the plus are the things that added to your experience that absolutely need to baked in to the next session. The delta is what was a gap what could be adjusted, added, removed to enhance your experience on the next session.
Yes. And then look what Thomas wrote, because you need to add, because I think it goes right to what you're saying. The very last thing Thomas wrote.
Oh, yes. So Thomas says we give out weak sauce because of the last 5 sets of deltas never had action taken on them. Truth. And you said it too, right? Like and this is why I only use plus deltas on like consecutive sessions or there's a cadence of the meeting or whatever it is. Because at the next meeting, you open the freaking meeting reporting out on the action taken on the deltas, the action taken on the pluses. And if you didn't take action, thank you for the feedback. And we didn't do the thing because X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
That adds some spice to the next round of plus deltas.
Yes.
Why is that such a significant action, Jen?
Well, it's one, because it shows you heard them. And two, like we struggled with, like they wanted us to have better bathrooms. And since the last meeting, we haven't made any changes. So we just like don't want to talk about it, because then we have to like own that there's an issue, and two, that we haven't made any progress. That doesn't mean that we didn't hear them. Doesn't mean that we're not thinking about it or looking at ways to make something better, but we don't communicate that.
Right.
And it's like, and it's crazy that another thing, and I'm poking at Josh just because I know some things that he does that are just really cool, is they ask for feedback and suggestions. They read every one of them out loud in front of the entire crew, and they go, here's what we're doing for this. We can't do anything about this yet, but thank you. And they read every suggestion in front of the entire team. Like that piece of it is, we heard you, we see you, and this is what we can do or can't do. It doesn't mean we have to take action on everything. Like, I think sometimes we feel like we got to take action on it else we're failing.
Right.
And like, we have to own there's sometimes we can't really do much about right now.
Yes.
And that may not feel so good, but that's okay, because we are at least acknowledging that we heard you. So maybe they'll give us another one.
Yes. Yes. And so Heather says, my voice matters. And so taking action and reporting back to them demonstrates appreciation.
Yes.
Thank you. Whether you do it or not, like it may not be optimal to not do it, but some things just aren't practical.
Yes.
Or they're going to take more resources, more time, whatever.
Yes.
But what you signal back to people is their idea, their experience, their voice matters.
Yep.
And now we're starting to form that connection to where we earn a spot to also provide, to share feedback and contribute our observations into their world.
100%.
Oh my God. So I'm pretty sure I went and posted the link to the after party on the socials. So folks, we're going to have the after party so that we can hear your takeaways, hear what bugged you, and just listen to what the experience was like and figure out what we're going to talk about next time. That's really what we're doing. We're just cheating and leaning on y'all. And I want to, oh, look, we got Vince Trevino coming in from the dude. Hey, you're late,
right the left. You caught right there.
So I want to do a little bit of a recap, because we got the people commented for Vince, because Vince was late, right? Welcome, Vince. And so some of the things that stood out to folks. So Daryl shared let's get clear. Is this a compliance or a growth conversation?
Love that. Love
right?
it. Yes.
If it's a compliance thing, you need to get your butt in gear. If we're having this conversation to elicit introspection, it's a different thing. It is. Different expectation.
And let's be clear. Like, say it up front.
100%. Sarah shares may I share an observation? So when we want to give feedback that wasn't requested, get permission. Mm-hmm. Use these words. May I share an observation? Or you could make it simpler. Do I have your permission to tell you what I think?
Oh, yes.
Right? Like that's the appropriate thing to do. Rather, I'll say it this way. You'll have better results if you get permission first. Heather says Jesse's great. Oh, no, that's not what she said. She said,
not what it said.
Great perspective, and the waste analogy as it relates to feedback, right? When I'm just barfing my feedback about all the inefficiencies, all the problems, all the that's overproduction. Nobody asked for it. There's no agreement on the problem. It's not contributing to any improvement, except I feel good because I pointed out all their problems. Daryl also said, create the space for them to accept. Create the conditions so that people can receive the feedback. You touched on it earlier, Jen, where when people are like in a very agitated, highly emotional state, ain't nobody receiving nothing, right? Like, be cool, chill out, let the emotion pass, because we're humans, it's going to happen. And then, hey, can I share an observation with you? Do I have your feedback? Because they still may be tender and they may not be ready for it, right? So create the space.
Some of it just goes away, Jesse. Like, I've learned, it's hard even with my kids, on just in that moment, they don't need you to say anything. And then it never comes up again, because it was like a moment in time, and they're better and they're good. And I just need to let it be. I don't need to go, remember yesterday when this, whatever. I mean, then it's like sometimes things are just elevated, and then they reset, and then like life is good. And I may be aware of it and kind of watching, but I don't have to like bring it back up.
Oh,
Oh, that's another show.
That's
Sorry,
another show, girl. Like, we still talking about that?
sorry.
And then Sarah shares another little review comment here is if you want to open up the faucet and keep like a nice healthy flow of actionable feedback and ideas to contribute and report out. Here's
Yes.
what you said. Here's what we did. Thank you. Right.
Mhm.
That is going to keep the feedback flow coming.
Yes.
But reporting out is super, super massive idea. All right, Jen. So what do you think?
There was a lot today. It was like, again, every time we open the faucet, we're like, okay, we're going to talk about this topic. And then everybody shows up and I'm like, I don't think we were prepped for this. No, it was, I mean, everything that was said today feeds into like that this just topic around feedback and this conversation around feedback. There's so many nuances. And yet where we started this series was like everybody lumps it into one bucket.
Yes. Yes.
And like we've started kind of pulling things apart and pulling it out and realizing that there's all these different places. And so I think for us, our be aware, like take a moment and reflect about just what you heard today as you go into each of those interactions going forward.
Yes. Thomas brought one up here, and the way this is landing is comparison.
Oh, yes.
Right. There's absolutely not a good way to stir creativity. Like avoiding, why can't you be like that other project over there? Right. And he goes on like, the one with completely different design, complexity, physical space, human beings, like all of everything's
Experience,
different. But why can't you be
location,
more like
geographic location, just every possible thing.
Right. And I think that happens when we're not clear about what the hell it is we're trying to achieve. Because what do you mean? Like what? Like better parking? What the hell are you talking about? And so again, getting clear about what's the problem, what's the goal, what are we working towards, framing your feedback in alignment with that, getting permission, being clear, differentiating or a firm distinction between I am expecting compliance or I am sharing something for you to ponder on and integrate into your being going forward. All of these things will absolutely minimize the friction that you're experiencing in your life. How do I know? Because it's what I do. And some people think like, man, you're super anal. Why you make such a big deal about the smallest things? It's like, because when I don't, I create problems for myself. When I don't ask for permission to speak into someone else's life, just barf on them, all my wisdom, I get frustrated. I feel ignored and minimized because they're not taking action on what I gave them. The problem started with me because they never freaking wanted it, right? The chef at the restaurant doesn't give a shit what I think about a steak. If you want it that way, go home and turn on your grill and cook your own damn steak, right? So framing the conversation is going to help you. Getting permission is going to help you. Being clear that y'all are on the same path. What if somebody comes to you, especially a youngling, and wants feedback, ask them particularly on what? What are you looking to work on? What are your top 2 objectives? What's your goal? Like these kinds of questions are their response is going to equip you to give them super meaningful and actionable feedback. Or like Jen's gangster move, when people say, tell me about yourself, I'm going to tell you about my salsa dancing and my fishnet hoodie. And that's not relevant. So getting clear, like, okay, what do you mean? What are we talking about? Are we talking about my experience? Are we talking about my singing career? Like, what are we? Because I've been in a lot of rooms. So which one do you want? Totally. Closing thought, Jen?
Yeah, so I have 2. So the one is clarity, and we talk about clarity. And I'm going to poke a little bit. This may make some people not like it very much, but if we come into a conversation and we are 100% clear on what's going to be communicated, that usually is not about the other person. That's usually about us. So if you're in a conversation and it's just right then in the moment, someone is asking a question or saying something to you or asking you for, your insight. Remember that in that moment, if that is a feedback conversation, then you need to, one, ask for permission or ask if you can share. But if you are coming in and I'm about to unload on Jesse, do not call it a feedback conversation. And that's going another layer, because it could be feedback on in your mind, something that happened, or a previous like that. But like if you're coming in loaded, it is not about them.
Yes, coming in hot.
Yes, yep. And so one more is, and this will be another conversation somewhere, is we talk about, can I share an observation? Karen, can I share an observation? There's also a level of vulnerability and trust. And over time, I'm going to say Jesse doesn't ask me that now. He doesn't ask, can I share about? And so that to me is another, when you create that space, whether it's job or wherever, you can get in a place to the trust and the vulnerability and just the shared respect, is that he doesn't have to ask for permission, because it's the repetition and how much of it that's happened, that I know that he'll share it and he knows that I will receive it, or I'll let him know I'm not ready. So just other thought.
I'll add that there have been times when you're sharing a situation and you were very clear, like, and Jesse, I'm not ready to go any further with this.
Yes.
Because right? Like, oh, yes. Okay, well, I'll leave it alone and we'll go from there. So
yes,
folks, love that y'all showed up. Mr. Graham came in and said, being conscious of avoiding blame language. Oh my God. What? Like, damn it, that's another
next
one.
Series.
Avoid blame language. Feedback about the situation and not a critique of character or capabilities, right? Facts. Focus on the facts.
Yes, I think Josh said that too. Focus on the facts. Focus
on the facts. And folks, we got the after party fixing to start up here in about 4 minutes. I posted the link on the different things. If not, if you're on LinkedIn, rather the easiest way to find it is go to LinkedIn, go to the search bar, type in No Space BS, and the No BS with Jen and Jess page will come up. Click on that. The link to the after party is in there. I posted it on the Facebook and the YouTube, and I don't know if that works or not. But anyways, please come. Bring your feedback. You have permission to share your observations, because we want to hear your voice and connect deeper as a tribe and a community.
And if you haven't done LinkedIn, the after party before, it is only voice. So even if you're not dressed or have your hair done, it is only voice. You do not on video.
Yes, and we may be sharing observations about the fish nets, because that's
we've already shared those over and over and over again. No fish nets.
Y'all be cool, people. This was awesome.